Welcome into the Beat Sessions, the place for all things music and where we do the listening for you. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Thank you very much for checking out the channel. Please like and share our content and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Keith, MB Lee, and I appreciate your continued support, and we all hope that you had a lovely week. I missed hanging out with you guys. There were repairs that needed to be handled on the exterior of the studio, kept me from being inside, hanging out with all of you guys and listening to music where I really wanted to be. But thankfully, it's all been taken care of, and I'm really excited to kick things off for the week of April 21st with a new record from Everything But the Girl. It's entitled Fuse. It's their 11th studio album and their follow-up to 1999's Temperamental. This is a big deal. Tracey Thorn and Ben Watt were pretty much done with this project. Committed to their domestic life. They've been partners for a number of years while they were together making music with Everything But the Girl. I think they were officially married in 2009. But it's really interesting looking at this outfit and when they chose to just stop. And it makes sense to me. Ben diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in the 90s. It very much informs the music that you hear on Amplified Hearts, Walking Wounded. And I think that in conjunction with just the stress and the concessions that I imagine you would have to make as a couple for the professional aspect of your life, I think all of this just came to a point where they were like, enough is enough. We're tired. We're stressed. We want to have a family and focus on our lives together. And, you know, it's unfortunate that the music stopped, but I'm happy for the two of them that they were able to pursue that goal. They have 3 children. They've been very busy doing their own things. It's not like they've just been chilling for the last 24 years. I know Ben has a record company. Tracey's doing all sorts of stuff. Like she's written a number of books. I mean, she's a very inspiring woman. Ben's an inspiring guy as well. So it's just, you know, circumstance. And you talk about COVID. This isn't a COVID record, but given Ben's disease and given the way that these guys really had to hunker down during COVID to keep him healthy, it's really cool that they just decided to look each other and they're like, hey, maybe it's the time to pick this thing up again and make it happen. And there's a cool story about Tracey tweeting, hey, like Ben and I are releasing a new Everything But the Girl record. And she goes out to dinner and she comes back and there's just thousands of retweets, and rightfully so. This is a band that, you know, earlier on in their career, a very interesting sound, jazz influence, a little bit of pop, a little bit of folk. And I bring up the song Missing because that's the song that everybody's the most familiar with. And if you listen to the original, it's very mellow, very acoustic driven. I like the feel. It's pretty, but you listen to it and it has that dance floor banger potential. And so Todd Terry gets a hold of it at the end of 1995. And, you know, these guys pass it off to him. They're like, remix it. And that song just blows up and it becomes one of the biggest songs in the world in 1996. It's one of the biggest songs ever, I think, of all time. It's on a number of greatest songs ever lists, like the greatest 1,000 songs, greatest 500 songs. It's out there. It's talked about. And it's really interesting the way that one track, it really changed the course of their music as far as Walking Wounded and Temperamental and the way that those albums took on that electronic feel and really influenced not just electronic music, but all pop music for the rest of that decade. And then pretty much at the height of the career, they stopped. And so I'm excited. I can see why there's a ton of excitement about this project because I think people expected these guys to go on for a little longer and to keep making music, especially with the impact that they had and with as big as they became. This is a band that, you know, starting off, and I think they released their first record in 1984. I mean, really struggled to like gain some traction as far as, you know, radio play. You know, they were kind of an underground a group of musicians, so to speak. And so that's another thing too. It's like you think about the way that instantaneous fame and going from being like kind of irrelevant to being like one of the biggest acts in the world, it can take its toll. It can have a lot of stress. And so I'm just super thankful that almost a quarter of a century later, you know, after life has happened and after everything that's gone down with these two individuals, you know, they decide to pick this thing back up and give us at least one more record that's just so solid. It's 10 songs, 36 minutes. I really like that they stayed true to themselves, didn't overthink this thing. They didn't approach this record as some type of like comeback, as like oh, hey, guess what we're doing? It's very much in line with what these guys have done throughout the entirety of their career, which is just make really damn good chill records. And this record, between the electronic like dance tracks and the balladry, very piano driven, reminds me a lot of their earlier stuff, and it really allows Tracy's voice, which is just still remarkable, and the maturity that it has. There's just, her voice has more body, I feel like, than it does, and than it did in the past, excuse me. And just coming with age, just, you know, all our bodies change. I know my voice has changed drastically in the last 20 years since I was, 20, now being 40 years old. And so it's really cool listening to the melodies that she's creating, messing around with some technology too, playing around with a little autotune, doing some stuff that gives this album a contemporary feel. And that's what I like about it. This is a record that very much feels like it belongs in 2023, but it's informed by 40 years of music that these two have made together. And I think it's really cool for that reason. Nothing Left to Lose is your opening track, a really appropriate title. I saw that immediately, was just like, yeah, like these guys have nothing left to lose with this record. And I think that's what makes it so much fun. You can really feel the energy there. Percussion and vocal driven intro. You get this light synth to move. It's very chill mid-tempo track, and it's just the vibe you wanted. Just that really just laid back, chill, electronic, just ethereal mood that this track creates. And it's just a great way to kick off the opener. You got this pulsating synth that works in. Kiss me while the world decays. Kiss me while the music plays. Tracy's lyrics, her melodies are great, but she has the ability as a songwriter to really, tap into emotion, and to really, the way that she writes things too. I'll bring up Missing Again. That main lyric, and I miss you like the deserts miss the rain. That's just such a beautiful line. And living in the desert, it's fully loaded. There's days where, the clouds move in and the rain comes, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, the deserts did actually miss the rain. And then there's that contemptuous side of it where, like you look at an ex-lover and you realize that I didn't need you. And you look at the desert and you look at, all of this plant life and all of these creatures that don't just survive, but they thrive. And it's, and I think that's just a really unique take on that line. It's the take that I like the most, as far as, hey, you know what? There was a point in my life where this relationship, this love that we had for each other, it felt like everything I needed, and it felt like I would be nothing without it. And now I reflect on it, and I'm seeing where I'm at in life, and the hell with that. Like, I didn't need that. And so she's incredible, and she's really just hitting the nail on the head lyrically on this record. Pull them up, follow along, giving us the type of emotional experience that we've really come to expect from Tracy over the years. Your second track, Run a Red Light, is gorgeous piano to open. It keeps this minimal feel very chill. And this is the type of song that it really has a big presence on this record, and it's gorgeous too. It's really just providing that mellow mood, really just creating the type of mood that you'd want on a Saturday morning, on a Sunday morning. This is something that you're just going to want to wake up and chill to your coffee to. But, knowing that these songs can be remixed into dance floor bangers as well, it's what I like about their music. I like artists that take that approach, that, they fundamentally want to put out that type of big banger, but they write an original version and then decide to, remake it or let someone else remake it. And I think that's really a solid approach. I think it allows you to make solid albums like the one that we're talking about, while also, giving the people what they want in providing just those big tracks that you can get out onto the floor and move to. Caution to the Wind is your third track. Hand claps and this eerie synth to open. I like the way the vocal enters on this track, and it carries till about 45 seconds. So you get this soft beat that works in, and just a great moment. Really like the minimal synth build that works in on this song. It's so indicative of what you're getting on this record, and I love the feel. I love the balance that they're able to bring with the different components, the electronic washes, but then also, this pretty piano balladry, this pop element that they're also really well known for. When You Mess Up, your fourth track, back to that piano minimalism that we're talking about. The vocal is really pretty on this song. Got this playful electronic element that works in, a simple bass drum that hits intermittently on this track. and then this nice synth wash that builds and fades out in the coda. Time and time again, your fifth track, contemporary electropop feel. This is probably the best example of, I mentioned that earlier on in the review, their ability, those nuances to make songs sound like they belong in 2023 versus, back in 1994 or 1984 when they started off. But I really like the synth on this. The variances and the percussion are a lot of fun as well. And this is just the type of song that just that, like a hot, sexy summer night. Like this is the perfect soundtrack for just, enjoying that ethereal desert feel. There's an element of their music that kind of takes on that desert rock feel. I mean, there's really not any of that at play here, but it reminds me a lot of like Sting in his solo work. It just has that like kind of just like sexy ethereal feel to the songs, to the music. No One Knows We're Dancing is your sixth track, is going to kick off the B-side. Simple percussion, just the drumstick just like rides the rim of the drum. You got these soft washes, great mellow build with the other elements on the song. Nice way to kick off the B-side. Lost is your seventh track. Another minimal affair, light synth washes, soft electro percussion on this thing, and it really allows the emotion of the vocal to be the focus. This is probably my favorite song. Lost is a very intense moment on this record. Definitely worth pulling up the lyrics to follow along to. Tracy's killing it on that particular song. Forever, your eighth song, light synth and vocal to open, carries the feel over until the beat hits. Got this like vibey mid-tempo banger. This is a song that like I like the mid-tempo electronic feel that they give it. It definitely has a mood, but it's definitely also a track that can be remade into something like super big and super dancey. Interior Space, your penultimate track, dark washes and a pretty but like very sinister piano. Vocal matches the intensity. This is a song that it caught me off guard, especially for a penultimate track. And I had to go back and give it a second listen, right in the middle of checking this thing out. But that second listen, I got it at that point. It all made sense to me why this track is in that penultimate space, how it's working, why it's working. It's a really, really cool song. And it leads into Karaoke, your final track, mellow mid-tempo beat, got this thick synth, big gaps between the pulses on the percussion. Like I like the way that element works in there. Very playful. Another great vocal performance from Tracy on that track to close this album out. After almost a quarter of a century, what a pleasure to have these two back. And if they decide to pump out another record in the next few years, I don't think anybody would be disappointed about that based on the quality of this effort. Really a cool record that we're going to vinyl, please. And I would encourage you to check it out this weekend. Hope you enjoyed listening to this project. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, check out the live show on Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.